Snow was falling hard that night when Margaret, a frail 78-year-old widow, heard furious knocks at her wooden door. When she opened it, she froze. 20 leather-clad bikers stood there in the storm, faces covered in snow, breath fogging the air. Her trembling hand gripped the doorknob as the tallest one spoke in a deep, desperate voice. "Ma'am, please. We don't mean harm. We just need somewhere warm to get through the night." She hesitated for only a second, then opened her door wider. She didn't know that this single act of kindness would soon bring 1,000 roaring engines to her doorstep the next morning, turning her quiet farmhouse into the center of a story the world would never forget. Margaret Bennett had lived alone on the outskirts of Montana since her husband, George, passed away 5 winters ago. The farmhouse they'd built together now echoed with silence. Most nights, she'd sit by the crackling fireplace, sipping tea wrapped in George's old flannel blanket. The radio was her only company. That evening, a brutal snowstorm swept through the valley. The wind howled like wolves, and snow buried the front porch. Margaret had just put a pot of stew on the stove when she heard it, the desperate pounding on her door. When she opened it, she was met with a sight that made her heart race. A gang of bikers, their leather jackets soaked, their faces red from the cold. They looked like trouble, patches, tattoos, heavy boots, but their eyes told another story: exhaustion, fear, and hunger. Their leader, a tall man with a gray beard and scarred hands, removed his helmet. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "we're stranded. The highway's closed. We'll freeze to death out there." Margaret studied them for a moment. Then she smiled softly. "Come in, boys. No one's freezing tonight." Inside, she handed them towels, blankets, and steaming bowls of stew. They sat awkwardly at her dining table, men who looked like they belonged in bar fights, now warming their hands by a widow's fire. One of them, the youngest, whispered, "No one ever helped us like this before." Margaret chuckled, ladling more stew. "Well, kindness doesn't have a dress code, son." The bikers helped shovel snow from her porch, fixed her broken generator, and stacked firewood until midnight. Laughter filled the house that had known nothing but silence for years. Margaret told them stories of her late husband, who used to ride an old Harley. The men listened, genuinely moved, especially their leader, Jack "Iron" Dalton, who had lost his wife years ago, too. Before dawn, as the storm eased, Jack approached her. "We'll be gone by morning, ma'am, but thank you. You didn't just give us warmth, you gave us a reason to believe people like you still exist." Margaret patted his rough hand. "You're welcome, son. Just promise me, when you see someone else out in the cold, you'll do the same." He nodded, eyes glistening. When she woke up later that morning, the bikers were gone, but her porch had been cleaned, her firewood stacked high, and a small note taped to the door. "You gave us warmth when the world turned cold. Iron and the Hell's Angels." She smiled softly, never expecting to hear from them again. The next morning, the sound of hundreds of engines shook the still air. Margaret stepped out, shielding her eyes from the snow glare. Down her long country road, stretching for miles, were rows of motorcycles, chrome gleaming under the pale sun. She gasped. The same biker from last night, Jack "Iron" Dalton, stood at the front, smiling. Behind him were not 20, but over 1,000 riders, all wearing the same insignia: Hell's Angels. "Good morning, ma'am," Jack called out. "You took in 20 of us last night. The rest came to say thank you." Margaret's knees weakened. "All this for me?" He nodded. "We told your story, ma'am. Every biker across 3 states wanted to come shake your hand." One by one, they stepped forward, leaving boxes of food, firewood, warm clothes, and even envelopes of money. They collected donations from every biker group they knew. Jack handed her a leather jacket, black, with a white patch sewn on the back. It read, "Angel Grandma." Tears rolled down Margaret's cheeks as they helped her put it on. The roar of 1,000 engines filled the air, not of chaos, but of unity and gratitude. Jack saluted her. You reminded us that even rough men can have soft hearts when shown kindness. Margaret smiled through her tears. I didn't remind you, she said softly. You already had it, you just needed a little warmth to remember. Before leaving, the bikers set up a new roof on her barn, refilled her heating oil, and promised to visit every winter. From that day on, the locals called her Grandma Angel. And every winter, without fail, hundreds of bikers would stop by her little farmhouse to check on her, bringing food, laughter, and stories. Sometimes, kindness is not about what you give. It's about who you become when you open your door. One woman's courage to help 20 strangers on a freezing night warmed 1,000 hearts and reminded the world that humanity still rides strong.